All right, what's going on, guys? Trev back again here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing a video giving my thoughts, spoiler thoughts for this one on Spider-Man No Way Home. Alright dudes, so I finally got a chance to go ahead and see Spider-Man No Way Home, and definitely want to give some thoughts on the movie. Spoilers in this video if you have not seen it yet, in that we do see some really cool reappearances for some of the 90s slash 2000s, and I guess even 2010s now at this point. Spider-Man, with some of my favorite villains. So my all-time favorite Spider-Man movie, before kind of the MCU stuff and everything, out of all the ones that were sort of done prior and with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies included, my favorite of all of them was always Spider-Man 2. Really love Dr. Octopus. Thought that movie turned out amazing, and I think that a lot of people were disappointed with the third, which ended up being the final Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. Now in this one, oh man, what they did was so freaking cool. Like I said, spoilers, so I assume you've seen it. We get to see the return of Dr. Octopus. We get to see the return of the Green Goblin of Norman Osborn. We get to see even the Lizard, even Jamie Foxx's Electro, and then we get to see the big ones, Andrew Garfield, and then the best thing about the movie for me, the return of Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Now this one was just amazing to see. I really couldn't care that much else about almost the entire rest of the movie. For our Tom Holland Spider-Man, who so he's actually my least favorite Spider-Man. I might get some heat for saying this, but I actually prefer both of the other Spider-Man more than Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and I view him as actually Spider-Boy. I don't actually look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man and see him as a Spider-Man. He's not a man. He's not old enough. Now, granted, it is comic accurate. If you read Civil War, for example, which is kind of where, like he made a lot of his big, when he catches the shield, and everything like that during Civil War. And he's sort of like, he's almost like a sidekick in some ways to Iron Man, I want to say. Which fits into why I think of him in my mind as Spider-Boy and not as Spider-Man. For me, maybe just based on my age and everything like that, I will always sort of look at Tobey Maguire as the true Spider-Man. Now, that's just for me. And again, I'll probably get heat from this. I'll probably piss you guys off. I'm not saying that Tom Holland is not a good Spider-Boy or a good Spider-Man. It is what it is. He is what he is. And the MCU movies have been fantastic. Having Iron Man work with him and a lot of the others and everything, Doctor Strange and everybody, is really freaking cool. It's wicked awesome to see. It's wicked cool to see. But I have to say, this movie was special for me to get to see Tobey Maguire return as the Spider-Man, because, those were some of my favorite movies growing up, were the original Spider-Man trilogy, or like the 90s or 2000 Spider-Man trilogy with the movies. And I even enjoyed the third Spider-Man movie, if you can believe it, with Venom. And even though, that Eddie Brock was really terrible, and Sandman, but I still liked it. I liked Bully Mcguire. I liked the emo version of Spider-Man. I thought it was really funny. I know it's different from like what we expect to see now. Those movies have their own sort of vibe and everything, but it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I love it. I think it's so funny and everything, and just a huge fan of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. He's my favorite Spider-Man. So getting to see him return, he totally overshadowed Tom Holland in this one for me. As great as Tom Holland was to see, and Andrew Garfield was good as well to see him return. I especially like the part where he's able to actually save Mary Jane in this one, or this version of Mary Jane, where he webs down and is able to get her in time, and he's almost in tears because in his universe, or in his realm, with his Spider-Man, unfortunately was not able to do that with Emma. So it's this one is so cool, man. I really love what they did here. Even to get to see the villains come back again, also to get to see him interact with Dr. Octopus. It's pretty funny that he's able to like use his spider suit, the one Tony set up for him, it's kind of like an Iron Spider type of deal, but he's able to kind of not really hack into, but connect to Dr. Octopus's tentacles and override them, which is pretty funny. I mean, it's not like he himself is really doing that much. It's the the Iron Man tech and everything that he has in his suit, but it's really funny to see. And Dr. Octopus is just awesome in every which way when he's chucking cars at him and stuff, and he's just so cool to see in the movie version in live action. For some reason, the movement of the tentacles and everything, it's just so cool to see him in the movie. But also the Green Goblin being the first Spider-Man live action villain in the movies. It was a fitting choice to use him sort of as kind of like the final deal in this one at the end. But basically, takeaways from the movie, the stuff with earlier on in the movie is okay. You have Doctor Strange, you have him making a request, Tom Holland Spider-Man making a request to basically have the world forget that he is the Spider-Man, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And while this is where I get into the Spider-Boy idea. When you have Doctor Strange, who's casting at that time, he just keeps talking to him over and over and over again and changing the request, which messes it up. And then we see kind of the events unfold after that we see with opening up the portals and dimensions to different prior ones we've seen. So even though it does have sort of like maybe a been there, done that type of feel when you're bringing back like a lot of the other villains like Lizard and the others, which was okay for me, but it wasn't like amazing or anything. Or Jamie Foxx as well. It's like okay, but he wasn't my favorite. But I understand maybe for other people, maybe he was. Maybe they really love those movies that they're from. So to each their own in this case. But man, this was one of the really cool ones. But once you saw Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man appear and he's like shooting web out of his vein or wherever it comes out of him. I can't even remember now. It's been so many years, right? And he's like, oh, wow, you guys can't do that. It was just so cool for me, man. Like, I almost wish, like, is there some way they could figure out a way to just do another Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie in that universe? Because I would be way, bigger of a fan if they could do something with that. Even if it's half serious and half silly, I would still enjoy that so much more than, a lot of the stuff they're doing now. Not the stuff they're doing now with the MCU stuff is bad, and Tom Holland Spider-Man is bad. It's cool to see him interact with other Marvel characters, but I feel like you almost need that because of his age. He just makes sense as like a protege, still learning, still developing and everything. It just fits for me that's kind of what he is based on his age and everything. He hasn't fully fit into his own just yet. And as such, I don't really look at him like a carry of his own, even though some of his movies are, good and everything, standalone movies, but I feel like he works best when he can play off of Doctor Strange or he can play off of Iron Man or some of the others and have somebody to kind of guide him. And they use that as well, too, in this one with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, that he's kind of trying to show him that this is not the way to, when he goes to basically execute the Green Goblin and everything. So this was so cool, so nostalgic for me, so much fun. You guys know that I'm a huge fan of nostalgia. It just made me really wish, like, oh, okay, cool, Venom and stuff is cool to see in the MCU, so that's another really good thing with Tom Hardy's Venom sort of crossing over and that whole thing, but and leaving behind, and now I don't think he's gonna be I don't think the actor will be in the MCU, but they'll have probably their own version of Venom in it now after what we see at the end of the movie here, the post-credits scenes, but for me, it just made me really wish that somehow, some way, one of the studios, whichever one, I guess it'd have to be Marvel at this point, could find a way to do another Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, like a fourth one. I know they had one planned. They didn't do it for whatever reason. Maybe they just thought, like, after the third one, it's time to end it. A lot of series end after a third take, and they don't go on further than that. You have to be really good to get past a third movie. Even Ninja Turtles, in the 90s, didn't get past their third movie. After that, they finished off. So this one was so cool. It was so cool to see Tobey Maguire return as the Spider-Man. The way I view it, the others are cool, but for me, that's Spider-Man, and the others are, like I said, they're, but Andrew Garfield also like his as well, too. His was good, too, in that his were kind of darker and edgier and stuff in some of his movies, so in the couple that they did with him. So also very good. And then, like I said, my least favorite being the current Spider-Boy version of Tom Holland, the Civil War era style Spider-Man from the comics. And if you read Civil War, he's also very young in it and everything like that. And it was translated very well in the movie. So in terms of like a score for this one, it was so amazing to see Tobey Maguire back. I will give this one a 10 out of 10. So much fun, so nostalgic, being that, like, those were some of the first superhero movies that I really enjoyed, getting to see, like, the first X-Men movie and maybe the second one as well, too, also awesome. But the first Spider-Man movie and second when I was growing up, that was so cool. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on No Way Home. It's probably my favorite Spider-Man movie of all the recent ones they've done. And just because, like I said, it had those nostalgia vibes for me, and I was a huge fan, especially of the second Spider-Man movie. So here's to hoping in the future. I don't know, maybe this will be well received, and they'll decide, hey, maybe there'd be room for us to do a Spider-Man 4 in that version or something. Because after I watched the movie, that was what I thought. I was like, who cares about this version of Spider-Man? Do that version. Do something with it. Do a fourth movie, whatever. I don't care what you do. Just, like, I don't want to go back to Spider-Boy. I want to stay with Spider-Man. This is what it is. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. We'll see you again soon for another. As always, it's Trev, and I'm saying peace later, guys. See you soon.